Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video of On Point Politics. We are now doing the fourth episode of Point Blank with Lester Tellez. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. I was just waiting for a couple of people to join into the stream. This is your best place for political news and election analysis that isn't beholden to any mainstream media source. And to kind of go on for the day, we have the president's schedule. We have Jack Ciattarelli, his New Jersey gubernatorial election, very big development that just occurred very recently tonight. The Virginia election, we just did a polling with our pollster, SoCal Strategies. We'll talk about the results of that poll. 2028 polling that just came out today showing Vance winning most of the swing states. And we are also going to be going over some big news for the channel, as well as other news that has come up with RFK, the president pressuring Europe, and other things. So that's pretty much what we're going to be focusing on today in today's show. That's what we will be focusing on today. So looking at the new development, at least first, let's look at the president's schedule. 9 a.m. today, he had an in-town poll call time. So the president just began his day with a poll call at about 9 a.m. when reporters gathered for scheduled events. And at 7:30 p.m., the dinner was hosted by the president at the Rose Garden. It was a closed press event, and that was really the only other event that the president had scheduled for today. Republican senators grill Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy while welcoming Fed nominee. The Senate Finance Committee held a hearing on September 3rd, 2025, to question Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. about his decision to dismiss all members of CDC's vaccine advisory panel and replace them with new doctors. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy accused Kennedy of denying people vaccines and undermining public health, while Kennedy defended the shakeup as part of a broader effort to focus on rigorous safety science. The same hearing featured Stephen Moran, President Trump's nominee of one of the Federal Reserve's open board seats. Moran told senators that he would maintain the Fed's independence and would not be influenced by the White House pressure. He also said it was important to stay independent and not take any orders from the president or legislatures. Republicans criticized Kennedy, but largely welcomed Moran, reflecting the Senate's mixed feelings about the administration's health and economic appointments. So that was the first thing that occurred today. And of course, guys, the whole point, MAGA, the Maha movement, when RFK really stepped into the role, guys, of health secretary, his main mission was to really get the country back on track in terms of its health. That was one of his main policy points that he really wanted to hit on in the 2024 presidential election when he ran his campaign. And the president, that being President Trump, gave him an opportunity to actually be able to voice those concerns in the 2024 election by basically allowing RFK to endorse him and then securing a position in the administration once the election was complete. And now that we see that, we are seeing this on full display with RFK currently in many, many board meetings, with Republican senators. And we also have, JD Vance actually tweeted something today. It was actually something that I reposted that I thought was very, very, very accurate. But JD Vance today, pretty much said, I'm going to put it up on the screen here. But he basically said that really, when I see these senators trying to lecture Kennedy and give him gotcha moments, all I can think is you all support off-label, untested, and irreversible hormonal therapies for children, mutilating our kids, and enriching big pharma. You're all full of that, and everyone knows it. So that is, really where the vice president stands on this. And this is where a lot of Americans really stand on this. The thing with this is that you can't be a party, or you can't even be in the Republican Party and criticize Kennedy for all of these things when simultaneously you're also going ahead and pretty much just really you're basically you're really like, oh, Kennedy's trying to do this and that. He's trying to make, vaccines safer. He's trying to make everything safer. He's trying to get everybody healthy, trying to get the food dyes out. But at the same time, you can't criticize him for that and then go around and say, oh, well, it's completely fine for, people to be taking, hormonal, medication that can alter your body that hasn't necessarily been tested that effectively and is very recent. And is it irreversible? Does irreversible changes to people? Like, that is really where that comes from. And that is a very big thing, for the administration to really hit this point home, that also a lot of these senators, including Republicans, by the way, this isn't just the Democrats now, but even some Republicans like to take a lot of money from Big Pharma. It's one of the biggest donor groups in the country, who are able to kind of, these people are able to pretty much influence policy when it comes to the medical field and the medical industry. And unfortunately, the Democratic Party went from being very anti-Big Pharma to being the party of Big Pharma. I mean, that's just really where the state of the land is right now. The Republicans have actually become the party of anti-Big Pharma. So that is something very interesting to also take note of as well. And the vice president makes this position very clear that the Republican brand is very, very against, Big Pharma. And a lot of, transgender, medication and procedural, that makes a lot of money for Big Pharma. It's one of the reasons why Big Pharma really wanted to push that, because it makes it makes these companies extra money. The next topic here is the Supreme Court docket to test presidential power. So as the U.S. Supreme Court opens its term in early October, several major cases will test President Trump's broad assertions of executive authority. Tariffs. A case will decide whether or not the president can impose tariffs such as steel and aluminum on national security grounds, a key part of Trump's trade strategy. Immigration. Another case challenges Trump's efforts to deport more Venezuelan migrants under emergency powers. Federal Reserve. A third case examines whether the president can remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook before her term ends, raising questions about the central bank independence. Legal scholars note that the court has generally backed Trump's policies over the past year, but law professor Jessica Levinson predicts a season of questioning presidential authority as the justices consider these challenges. And so what's really fascinating about a lot of these, I believe something about gay marriage is also going to be coming up at some point in the future. Like, that will be coming up fairly soon. And this is very interesting because, again, if the tariffs get reversed, that's going to do very big damage. It's going to do irreversible damage to the Trump administration. And that might actually cause the economic downturn that a lot of the so-called experts were expecting after the president input the tariffs into the economy. Immigration, again, the court's trying to subvert the president's authority on that. And we also have the Federal Reserve. And what's very interesting is, a bunch of Democrats and a lot of people are saying, oh, well, he can't just remove anybody just because. Well, apparently, according to Sean Spicer, who is a Republican commentator on YouTube, he's been doing this for many years. He's worked at Newsmax. He actually said there was a case called Biden, President of the United States, or Biden versus Spicer, where basically Biden fired Sean Spicer from his place in the government without really any reason whatsoever. It was the first time that had actually occurred. And what happened was President Biden pretty much argued that he had the authority to remove anybody that he wanted at any given point in time that was a, appointed federal, position. And the United States government actually won that case. So therefore, by that, logic, the logic of that decision, the president can theoretically remove anybody that he wants to. So Trump's actually using something from the Biden administration that Biden did to a Republican. He's doing the same thing, but he's actually using it effectively, and he's actually doing it to people he seems fit to remove, not just, oh, you were just removing him because he's a Republican. So that is something that is very interesting. That will obviously, probably be tested as well. But a decision was already made on that in that case. And so that's kind of the legal precedent that the president is using in order to do all of these changes. And again, the Supreme Court right now, with these decisions coming up, if they reverse a lot of the Trump policies, it's definitely going to be a big problem for somebody like it is going to be a big problem for Trump, but also a problem for J.D. Vance, because, a lot of these policies that they wanted to implement, if they can't do them now, and the Supreme Court blocks them, J.D. Vance is going to be put in a very bad predicament come 2028, because a lot of stuff the president campaigned on to be successful may not be successful and may be blocked by the Supreme Court, and it very may well affect the 2028 presidential election when the time comes, because it will significantly decrease Vance's viability in the policy department. That's going to be a very big issue for Vance if that persists. The next thing here, university funding fight. Northwestern University President Michael Schill resigned on September 2nd after President Trump's administration froze nearly $800 million in federal research funding. Republicans accused the university of failing to combat anti-Semitism, and the funding freeze forced Northwestern to make deep budget cuts and eliminate about 425 positions. Scholl said it was time for new leadership, while a White House spokesperson said the administration looks forward to working with the next president. The administration has also threatened funding for other universities. A federal judge recently ruled similar cuts at Harvard unlawful, which I actually think is the right thing. I actually think that the administration cutting funding because of anti-Semitism, I think is just, in my opinion, I think it's dumb. I think it's against free speech in this country. No matter if you agree with somebody or not, you should be able to, say whatever you want and do whatever you want, as long as you're not threatening other people's safety. But this is a testament to the Israel lobby and how influential they are in the United States. Both politicians on both sides do have AIPAC handlers. They do have, AIPAC funding. A lot of politicians have received it. Barely any haven't. And despite the president's comments the other day stating that the Israel lobby has actually significantly reduced its influence, I actually don't perceive that to be true. I think actually, if anything, the Israel lobby is at its strongest point than it's ever been in the United States history. And this is tying to a lot of different things, such as Jeffrey Epstein, why that's not coming out, why you have Benjamin Netanyahu doing this press tour, basically getting interviewed by, decent podcasters in this space, why that is occurring. He's obviously trying to do some reputational salvaging of Israel. But unfortunately, we can debate the specifics. And honestly, do I know all the specifics? No, I don't. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do. But here's the thing. Benjamin Netanyahu just cut out a deal with Google for $45 million that's basically going to blast ads to pretty much counter the narrative that Israel is starving Gazans. And Benjamin Netanyahu's explanation, to my understanding, is that the aid is always ending up in Hamas's hands, and Hamas is just stealing the aid from Gazans. But right now, like 80% of Gazans are like in stage 5, they're like in stage 5, starvation, which is not good. It basically means that they're going to die, because even if they do eat food, they're not healthy. Like their body has had so much irreversible damage done to them. And it's like, if you're having to spend this much money on a campaign to change the narrative of, why people would think that this is happening. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to be going and continuing now. I believe I was talking about, that's right, the Israel lobby. That's what I was talking about right now, actually. So, if you really had to spend that much money on really changing people's opinions about what you're doing, then clearly there's got to be something that you got to change about what you're doing. Because if you have to spend $45 million of ads to convince people that what they're hearing or what they're seeing isn't true, then there's definitely a problem. So that is, really the main idea of, really just that's kind of the context to what the administration is doing now with these universities. I don't think it's the right thing to be cutting their funding just because of anti-Semitism, because that's a very like broad thing. Like one student could be saying something, and you're going to get the whole university in trouble for it. Like that's like if some kid at the university says they don't like JD Vance. So what? So you're going to cut funding because they say they don't like JD Vance? Like it's not just about the fact that it's anti-Semitism. It's the fact that that could be applied to anything, and the precedent for that's actually really bad. I don't think that's the right move for the administration to take. The next story here: Trump pushes Europe on Russian oil and U.S. aids back to Baltic states. So that's something that's going on right now. And a call with allied leaders. As of right now, the coalition of the willing, President Trump insisted that European countries stop buying Russian crude oil and refined fuels. He said that 1.1 billion euros worth of EU purchases financed Russia's war effort and urged Europe to pressure China to reduce its support for Moscow. Trump emphasized that the Ukraine conflict is not our war and signaled that he's reluctant to commit more U.S. support, saying that Europe must bear a bigger defense burden as they are the country right next to Ukraine. As a part of an American first review of foreign aid, the administration will currently phase out security assistance to Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. I believe that's how you say it. Danuya, I believe, when the current program ends in September 2026. Officials argue European allies should fund their own defense. Senator Jaheen Shaheen warned that the move could undermine the Baltic states' ability to deter Russian aggression. So that's, the pressure there right now. And then in terms of, some business economic news, it says Lululemon cuts forecast as tariffs bite. So it says here that their new estimate of revenue for 2025 is about 10.85 to about $11 billion as of right now, and earning per share is about $13 as of right now. So it's about a $240 million hit from Trump's tariffs on Chinese imports. So that's about how much that's eating up. And as to my understanding, this is actually being eaten up by the profits of Lululemon. So the consumers aren't supposedly paying the higher price. Really, Lululemon is just suffering the profit loss. That's to my understanding. I may be incorrect about that, but that's what it seems like it is. And we see here just some indicators for August and July of this year. Weekly jobless claims is up 8,000 to 237K. That's very, very big number. We see suggesting a cooling labor market as businesses face higher costs from tariffs and stricter immigration rules. Private payroll growth. August saw just 54,000 private sector jobs added. Economists cite trade uncertainty and worker shortages due to immigration crackdowns. Continuing claims, 1.9 million continuing. The unemployment claims fell just a little bit, implying some workers are finding jobs, but overall momentum is weak. And then the trade deficit is about $78.3 billion as of right now, which is up about 32%. Tariff-related volatility contributed to a surge in imports and a widening trade deficit. Economists say that businesses are front-loading shipments ahead of potential tariffs, distorting monthly trade flows. So it can kind of create a weird perception of it, just because you're kind of seeing, it is changing the perception of the data a little bit, just because you are having this kind of take into effect right now. So that's really some of the daily political news for today. And looking at some of the electoral news, we have Jack Ciattarelli is winning. He just won over a Democrat mayor of Garfield, New Jersey. So Michael Casey posted on Instagram as of right now. He posted on not Instagram, on X, this post saying Democrat mayor of Garfield, New Jersey has officially switched parties from blue to Republican and endorsed Republican Jack Ciattarelli for governor. The major endorsement for Jack Ciattarelli in a city that has been a longtime Democrat stronghold. Standing room only as hundreds of Garfield residents were in attendance. So this is a really big deal, because I have been saying for quite some time that Jack Ciattarelli has a significantly better chance to win the gubernatorial election compared to somebody like, even even against somebody like, a Spanberger with Winsome Sears. Like, Winsome Sears has a significantly lower chance of retaining the governor's mansion than even is Jack Ciattarelli to actually take it from the Democrats as of right now. That's my, electoral projection right now. I actually have Ciattarelli narrowly winning that race. We will be doing polling on the New Jersey gubernatorial election fairly soon. So we'll have a better idea of where that's actually sitting at. We'll have a better estimate of where that is, kind of taking into effect as of right now. But this is really big news for Ciattarelli, to be honest with you. If we look at the national poll that we did quite some time ago, I already know I talked about this on a video, but pretty much we can see here that the president currently sits at a 45% national approval rating to 48% disapprove, which, if you have been following my X page, we are currently tracking the president's favorable rating using my polling averages from the 2024 election. And this is something that I used to do a while back. I used to aggregate all of the polling, as you see right here. Like, this is a lot of people who are a long time watchers of the show are going to recognize this kind of spreadsheet. I had all of the data inputted here using a party model. And when we go over here, it kind of aggregates everything together. And we have this right here. And this is going to be a weekly tracker for the presidential approval rating that is updated every single Sunday. So we see here at about 48% disapprove to 47.3% approve. So he's barely underwater according to my forecast. Here, as of right now, he's just narrowly underwater in my polling aggregate. We will be updating this in about a week and see where the movement is. But this is where he stands right now, with about, give or take, 44.7% undecideds. By the way, Daniel, I will be reading chats at the end of the stream. If you super chat, it'll come up faster and I'll probably be able to read it during the show. But I usually like to leave super chats at the end. Or not super chats, but just chats at the end, just so I can kind of do the whole show and then I get to everybody's questions at the end. So I also think I can show the comments down here as well. There's like a thing that pops up on the bottom here that the chat overlays on the screen, but I think I'm going to turn that off just in case somebody, puts something weird and the YouTube doesn't flag the video. Looking at the poll, though, I mean, we clearly had something very interesting where Vance was, underwater 11 points. His approval rating is all over the place depending on who you're looking at. This was a U.S. adults poll, so it is definitely a little bit more skewed, in my opinion. Like, it could be a little bit more iffy. If we pulled registered voters, it probably would be significantly different. We also see here, looking at some of the, matchups, we have Newsom up 2 points on Vance in the national popular vote, and Pete Buttigieg is actually winning it by 4 points, while J.D. Vance is beating Stephen A. Smith by 2 points. And again, you have a lot of undecideds. Okay, so it's very early, very preliminary, very interesting. Okay, just in terms of the just kind of in terms of like the poll, this is very early. This could change like on a whim, and this is less undecideds than our earlier polling. Like, our earlier polling had a lot of undecideds, actually. Like, I don't even think we had Vance above like 35%. Not even that long ago. So this is a little bit of a difference compared to a while back. but the Democrats are kind of picking up some momentum. You can see that the group that they're doing the worst with compared to 2024 is younger voters. We had Trump winning that category last time, and it doesn't seem like he's doing it right now. So, definitely not a great sign for the Republicans here. It seems like President Trump had very unique strength with younger voters. And, just because of that, you are seeing a big difference here. All right, guys, I am back. So again, looking at this, really Vance's strength in some of the age groups are very weakened. He's still winning 45 to 64, and he's actually doing better with seniors. Harris actually in our polling actually won seniors. So that's also interesting. So he does better with older voters, but does worse with younger voters. So it's kind of like a 2016 redux almost. And again, if you look at this polling, like the Democrats are all getting like 54 to 60% of the black vote. Like they're not doing very well with black voters. It's really just Vance right now isn't doing great with the white vote, but like the fact that they're only polling in the mid 50s and like low 60s in the black vote is actually really bad for the Democrat Party. Like even early like 2024 polling for Biden didn't even have that level of polling. Like they never polled that low. So that is not good at all, actually. That's actually really bad considering the landscape that we're in today. That's actually a very, very bad place to be at for the Democrat nominee. And you see Buttigieg is the one who does the worst out of everybody. And Vance even gets an extra 2% against Buttigieg. But he's only at 12, which is way less than Trump. So both candidates are performing worse with all of those groups. And we see again, with the male vote, even with Buttigieg is actually winning the men vote according to this. And even like Vance is tied with men against Vance, against Newsom. So Vance definitely does have some electoral concerns. Now, if this was a registered voter screen, it would be a little bit different. I think you'd probably just, I think that You probably, if you did it register a likely voter, it probably would be a little bit better with Vance. Vance would probably be doing a little bit better because actually some polling was done not that long ago. This actually just came out today that Vance is beating Newsom in 5 out of the 7 swing states in a 2028 presidential matchup. And according to this, Vance is getting 51% of the vote in the states of, I believe it comes out to Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So those are the states that they polled. And these are people that polled likely voters too, by the way. And it has Vance winning 51% of the vote to Newsom's 49% in the swing states. So basically, that means that Vance is pretty much clearing the swing states. And he wins, according to this, he wins 5 out of the 7 swing states. And you see that Vance is winning 9% of Democrats as Newsom is winning 7% of Republicans. So that's also interesting that Vance is kind of doing a little bit better there. I wouldn't have expected that. And you even look at this swing state pile up, the person with, I believe, the highest favorable rating is actually Kamala Harris, who is slightly higher than Vance, which is interesting. Then you have Joe Biden at this category here. So if I actually share this tab, Joe Biden is down 5 points in the swing states. Tim Walz is actually up 6 points, but his favorable rating is lower than everybody else. So it wouldn't really work out for him great. Then Pete Buttigieg is at 39% in the swing states. Not a great approval rating. Ron DeSantis not doing very well. Marco Rubio at 42%. Gretchen Whitmer at 35%. And then Gavin Newsom at 37% in the swing states, with Glenn Youngkin being the lowest favorable for a Republican here at just about 24%. So that's the thing. It's very iffy it's very, very iffy for the Democrats in some of the swing states. And even like Marco Rubio would do not very well against like Pete Buttigieg or Tim Walz or Harris. So like the only one that he's doing better than is really Gavin Newsom. Like that's really the only person he's performing better than in terms of like a national Democrat. So again, Vance does have a very slight upper edge in the swing states for 28, but still it's a very iffy race right now for Vance. In my opinion, I think Newsom probably wins the popular vote by about half a point. And when you look at the demographic breakdown here, you clearly see that Vance is at about, give or take, 53% odds to win the nomination, with Marco Rubio in second place. And if you look at the Democrat field, ever since this redistricting war happened, Newsom is all the way at 35% odds to win the Democrat nomination as of September 1st. And that really hasn't changed much as of right now. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson actually fell quite significantly in the betting odds this weekend. He was doing a little bit better after his appearance for his next movie came out, but that pretty much died down. So really doesn't seem likely as of right now that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would win the nomination. But right now it seems like Vance and Newsom are the favorites. And again, before I end the stream, because this is pretty much it for today, but the last thing that I wanted to mention is our team at On Point Politics. We have a developer by the name of Jim. He's the lead developer for On Point Politics now. He created an election simulation model that we are going to be using. So the one that was, I was using before, or the one that got leaked on X, is no longer the one that we're using. And we are using a new one that is even better. It shifts everything by county. And it breaks down a bunch of different demographic groups that if enough pollsters polled these, we could actually have a very accurate county by county forecast for the 2028 election. And I'm not going to go into the specifics because I don't know when it'll be made public. It may not be made public just because it took us a while to put it together, or I should say Jim. It took a while for Jim to put together. So it may not be up for a public release, but as of right now, we are going to have something very sophisticated for 2028 in terms of actual county and vote total projections. So our forecasting for those elections will probably be significantly better, just because in my last models for 24, I was going really based off the margins, and that's almost never a good thing because you're not really actually accounting for the actual raw votes, which is actually more important than looking at just the margins in elections. So definitely something interesting to look at. And that's pretty much it for this video. Looking at some of the comments here, Featherspoon75 says, could New Jersey flip in 2025 for governor? It's possible that it does. We are going to do polling there. If we poll, I suspect we're going to have Cheryl up by 4 or 5 points. That's where I think she's at right now. But by the fall, I could see Jack narrowly winning. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On Point Politics. You're the #1 stop for all things polling. Yes, that's very true. And then Daniel wrote, what do you think about Hulk Hogan's defeat at 1988 WrestleMania? Do you think it was because of the lack of Hulkamania showing up for him? I mean, I don't really know. I actually don't. I never watched that. I wasn't around at the time, so I wouldn't have been able to see that. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. If you guys did enjoy this episode of Point Blank with Lester Tellez, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. And if you're on X, go ahead and follow the page. I see a lot more people on X are watching this than on YouTube. So greatly appreciate it for the support on both platforms. I'm going to try to hook this up to see if it can go on Rumble, to see if I could also stream on there as well. So I will see you guys in the next episode.